all of those medical visits regardless of ability to pay. And I understand that there are resources available for children and families who can't pay for health care in general. But specifically, does Broward County say if you think you have a medical condition and you want a physician's note of some kind, we'll provide that for you at no cost. We'll schedule the appointment. It can be done during school hours so parents don't have to miss work in order to do it. Do you do those things in Broward?
Sir, what I would say is that we have an exceptional student services department. I know that oftentimes our school social workers will partner with our parents in order to help them be able to make those type of appointments and to make arrangements in order to get to those appointments. In addition, I would like to point out that this has been in place since spring of last year. So this is not new for us. It is not a new practice or procedure.
Yes, but what is new is the Department of Health and the State Board of Education rules and the executive order of the governor, which doesn't seem to have changed anything based on your prior answer. So I'll move on to my next question and perhaps final area, and then I'll open it up again to members of the board if they have any further questions for you. Subparagraph C in your policy deals with employees, and it says that employees may request a reasonable accommodation for not wear a mask if that employee has medical, physical, or psychological contraindications. Same magic words as for students, but I can't find where the employee has to go to a doctor and get a medical note. Can you point that out to me, please?
That would be a part of our process. Anytime that there is an ADA request, part of our process does look for the outside information to confirm.
But you're saying that there is no written policy that requires an employee to produce a doctor's note in order to take advantage of this exemption, right?
Actually, in policy, we do have a different policy related to that. It's our EEO policy. It's policy 4001.1 that does describe the policy for our employees and included in there.
And does that policy address mask mandate exemptions in 4001.1?
No, because the two policies are going to be referenced back to it. There's a process. In other words, for the face mask policy, we have it outlined in there that they're to go with the American Disabilities Act, and then the separate policy at that point in time is where they can apply for their ADA accommodation, which goes through our EEO department and does have a specified process in place.
So there's some other policy that gets incorporated into this policy for those employees. This policy doesn't specifically say anything about a medical note. So let's move on to the balance of that paragraph where it says a face covering may not be required. This is not an accommodation under the ADA. This is the last sentence. Face covering may not be required when the school district official supervising an employee authorizes the employee to remove his or her face covering when wearing a mask covering would create a safety risk to the person as determined by local, state, or federal regulators or workplace safety guidelines. Using that provision of your exemption for employees, there's no medical note required, is there, Superintendent?
These are going to be more towards when we have some of those emergency type situations. It may be that an employee may be having a heart attack and we have to remove the face covering in order to attend appropriately.
Well, now how would local, state, or federal regulations or workplace safety guidelines come into play only in a limited circumstance such as that?
Well,
there's no federal regulation that's applicable specifically to a heart attack with someone wearing a mask, is there?
No, sir, and again, that's just an example of many.
Okay, so there's no requirement to get a doctor's note for an employee if someone, it's a pretty broad list, a supervisor, some local, state, or federal regulator, or workplace safety guidelines suggests that it's unsafe, no doctor requirement at all, right?
What I'm saying to you, sir, is that if there is an employee that is asking not to wear a face mask, that we have a structured process in place. And it is a very similar process to what we are requiring our families to do as well.
Okay, and what's the rule number for that process, please?
It's rule number 4001.1.
That's the same process you gave me before, isn't it?
That is the process for ADA accommodation. That is correct, sir.
Okay, well, we'll just agree to disagree then, because this doesn't refer back to the ADA. This gives authority to supervisors and deference to local, state, or federal regulators, and I would suggest that the state of Florida is such a regulator, and the Department of Health is such a regulator, and State Board of Education is such a regulator, and workplace safety guidelines have been issued. So it appears to me, members, that there's a different treatment for employees than for students, and there seems to be some understanding that maybe employees don't need to go through the same hoops that parents do for their students. But with that, I'll open up any further questions from the board. And any further questions? If no further questions, then thank you very much, Superintendent. I know this is a difficult issue for you and for all of us, and we may not be on the same side of things, but I think we all have the best interests of the children in mind, and we have our own statutory and constitutional duty here as a board. So members, the commissioner had previously made a recommendation, and that recommendation was, there was a motion to approve and there was a second. Guess we better take public comment. Yep. Okay. Yep. Okay. Operator, we'll turn this over to the public. Again, I would ask those people calling in, please consider the issue before us, which is the authority or lack of authority of the school district in Broward County to follow or not follow rules promulgated by the State Board of Education and the State Department of Health. We'll limit each comment to 1 minute. And once again, there will be a warning notice as the clock runs down. Operator, thank you.
We'll take our first public comment. Caller, your line is now live.
Okay, so this is John from Jacksonville. I'm trying to understand what the board's position here is. We've been told that this is the second emergency meeting about mask policy, but we also heard during the last vote the board isn't making a statement on whether or not masks are dangerous. So what is the emergency that we're rushing here? Now, the other inconsistency from the board is that we're hearing that the correct way to process a disagreement over an interpretation of the rules is through the courts. Yet immediately after saying that, the board has gone to retaliate. Now, how do we square those things? And finally, for the second or third tier attack dog, you know who you are, what steps do I take as a parent to ensure that my kids are able to go to a safe and secure school? That's what the Constitution empowers you to do, safe and secure.
We'll take our next commenter. Caller, your line is now live.
Hi, this is State Senator Gary Farmer, once again, District 34. Chair Grady mentioned the question before was legal authority for action. Again, this board lacks the legal authority to be engaging in this process right now. The purported rulemaking was not done legally. We have this thing called separation of powers that's at the foundation of our Constitution. The governor cannot order DOE or DOH to enact rules. Only the legislature can do that. The Parental Bill of Rights does not give you cover. We're talking about protecting other students from a parent's misguided decision. So this is not about the parents protecting their own child. It's about the district protecting the other children who will be infected by the child with the uninformed parent. Thank you, Superintendent Cartwright, for withstanding some rather condescending questioning and for protecting our children. Very proud of you and of all of our Broward County School Board members. This should not be political. Wear a mask. That's the answer. It's safe. If you have a medical reason not to do so, you have avenues available to you. But we need to take this Delta variant seriously, and people need to wear masks. And the Constitution empowers school districts to do this. That's why we do it locally. Districts will have differing.
We'll take our next comment.
Good evening. This is Commissioner of Agriculture, Nikki Freed. I'd like to read a quote. You're in a lifeboat. You see a helpless child at sea. The child is swimming towards another lifeboat in hopes of saving their own life. Who, in their right mind, would have the reaction to destroy the other lifeboat? All because the child wasn't coming to your boat. Commissioner Corcoran, These are your own words in 2016. The board is threatening to take away the only lifeboat we have for children who aren't old enough to get vaccinated. Shame on all of you. How embarrassing that you may be more afraid of the governor than you are for the lives of our children and teachers who are already getting sick and dying in record numbers. If you vote to defund school districts for protecting their students, I will continue to work with the White House to refund schools and make sure history records your unconstitutional, partisan decisions that I assure you that if you remove these duly elected constitutional officers, it will not hold up in the courts.
We'll take our next comment. Caller, your line is live.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Jason. I'd like to provide comment on the repeated reference here to following the rules and violating the law. Let's talk about those laws that everyone keeps referring to. The statute relied on to adopt the rule and cited in the probable cause determination is section 1003.22. That statute authorizes this board to adopt rules that, quote, govern medical examinations and immunizations, end quote, not whether masks should or should not be worn. The rule that this board adopted has nothing to do with medical examinations and immunizations. It has everything to do with partisan politics, and frankly, I want to echo one of the comments I just heard. Bullying. You have engaged in bullying today.
We'll take our next comment. Caller, your line is now live.
Hey there, this is Amanda C. I'm calling from Pinellas County, representing Community Patriots, member of Moms for Liberty and the Republican Liberty Caucus. This whole thing is just so mind-boggling to me, because am I correct in saying that anybody would be under the authority of the Florida Constitution? It doesn't matter what a medical professional says when it comes to my child. If I take my child to the doctor, I pay for their opinion. Ultimately, guess who has the totally godly ordained right and the sovereign right to make decisions on behalf of my child? That is me and their father, and that is it. They don't get to make the ultimate decision. I take their opinion and then I decide. Why? Because no one knows or loves my child like I do, period. The Parental Bill of Rights, I don't understand what part.
We'll take our next question.
Hi, my name is Adam Richardson from Lake Worth, Florida. I'm just calling because it is very clear that the board is acting in excess of its authority. The board claims to be acting under the enforcement provisions of section 1008.32 of Florida statutes, but that very clearly only applies to law or state board rule. Law, of course, is a statute, and a state board rule is not a Department of Health rule, which is what you claim that these boards are violating. So you don't have the enforcement authority to do this. You are acting in excess of your authority. And it is a little ironic that you claim that these boards are violating the law when you are actually doing so. And I think you really need to consider what you're doing here, because it is not right, and it's very much in excess of your authority. Thank you.
We'll take our next comment. Caller, your line is live.
Hi, this is Paul DeGance from Hillsborough County. I don't understand what this is all about. This rule was put into place by Governor DeSantis to stop these rogue boards from enforcing these ridiculous provisions on our kids. You guys have the authority to end this. Squash this garbage from Broward and Alachua so it doesn't permeate the rest of the state. This is ludicrous. If you're worried about your kids, teach them how to wear an N95 and have them wear it to school. Otherwise, get lost.
We'll take our next comment. Caller, your
Hi,
line
this
is
is
live.
Carla.
Hi, this is Carla again in Hillsborough County, the county with 8,000 quarantine students. I do want to say the prior caller absolutely sounds like a whack, but neither here nor there. The board is really demonstrating their political alliance because we really should be focused on health. I do remember hearing the chair mentioning low-income students and his concern for cost. Let's talk about the cost of quarantining. Who's going to reimburse these parents that cannot work because their child's quarantined, or the cost to go get a test, or the cost to go to the doctor? I don't see those costs were even factored in or even care about those costs. So let's really, really focus on true health. You want these rights for your kids. You want the right to send your kids to school with COVID and infect other kids. That should not be allowed. Thank you.
We'll take our next caller.
Good evening. My name is Tiffany Justice. I'm the co-founder of Moms for Liberty, and before that, I served on the Indian River County School Board from 2016 to 2020. I want to thank the State Board of Education for laying bare to the public and the American public the hoops that parents have to jump through to have their parental rights respected in Florida schools. I want to make note specifically because a caller spoke earlier. Carly Simon, the superintendent of Alachua Public Schools, is calling doctors to verify exemption notes. That feels incredibly unprofessional and invasive. Parents want to partner with their children's school, but partnership takes trust. It has been made clear to Florida families that parents are not being trusted as the expert of their own child. I hope this meeting brings to light this issue, and I hope every legislator that supported the Parents' Bill of Rights listens to this meeting and takes action in the next session to correct this wrong. Allow us to direct the upbringing of our children. Thank you.
We'll take our next comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Hi, my name is Anthony DeMarco, calling from Tallahassee, Florida. Just real quick, I'd like to correct the Liberty moms and Patriot dads out there. I'd like to see you walk into a hospital and walk out against hospital orders. You'll have DCF waiting there to take your child from you. Next, in this process, the State Board of Education has completely bypassed how we got here, and it's been said over and over that the rulemaking process was done out of order, was illegal. Any funding removed from any school harms children. You're sitting here talking about removing funding from schools. You're harming children, period. This shouldn't be a public conversation. You should be talking to medical professionals.
We'll take our next comment.
I can't help but wonder why Dr. Rifke isn't here to explain his rule. Does he believe that the mask protects the wearer, regardless of a child with COVID-19 and without a mask coughs on her? I can't help but wonder if parents wanted their child to carry a gun into the classroom, if this board would want HB 241 to be used to make that child exempt from the laws that prohibit guns in the classroom. The board members seem to think the kid with COVID-19 who doesn't want to wear a mask has more rights than the kids who want to be in the safest environment and over the kids with disabilities who can't wear a mask. People have hypothesized that Governor and Mr. Corcoran are trying to destroy our neighborhood schools. After listening to the board today, I can't help but wonder if the board members are also trying to destroy our neighborhood schools. If you truly believe this is a good rule, why doesn't this rule apply to all publicly funded schools? Why does it only...
Take our next comment.
Hello. I wanted to say that it is interesting that Florida Surgeon General Rifke has not spoken publicly or to the press, as parents are in need of data and guidance as schools reopen. And tomorrow, Miami-Dade is getting ready to vote on a similar mask mandate, and I hope they pass it, because right now we are in a public crisis and we're not acting like it. This meeting sounds more like a trial under a communist regime than it is to serve our children and help them succeed. You only want to punish and you want to humiliate while children are in the ICU or in quarantine. One child in the ICU due to COVID is already too much. Actions today are negligent. Masks are the bare minimum that we can do to protect each other and our children. And following this, and the board trying to defend a murderous political Republican agenda is disgusting, because people are dying and people are in the hospital and people are in quarantine and people have long-term diseases and consequences from COVID. And I am truly disgusted for the negligence on the time that parents have to take PTO in order to care for.
Take the next comment.
This is Dr. Jennifer Keenan calling, and the amount of misinformation being spewed by these callers would take me more than 1 minute to debunk, but there's a lot of misinformation, including that cloth masks do anything to reduce the spread of COVID transmission. If you're that scared, send your child with an N95 mask, which is the only mask that has been proven to reduce slightly the spread of this virus. These are technical boards, and these superintendents should be removed immediately. They are in direct violation of the Parental Bill of Rights, because let me define, a device, is an instrument, apparatus, implant, machine, tool, or similar article that is used to diagnose, prevent, and mitigate. Okay, so it is in fact a medical device, and so they are in direct violation, and they need to be brought up on charges for this tyranny. Thank you.
We'll take our next question.
Hello, my name is Mike Ludwig with the Northside Coalition of Jacksonville. We stand in solidarity with Broward County. We issued a statement to Duval County saying that the Duval County Board should move immediately to impose a mandatory mask mandate for all schools, because allowing some students not to wear masks leaves students and staff without adequate protection and goes against the grain of CDC guidelines. We must protect our children, especially those who are unable to be vaccinated. The governor's restrictions on mask mandates like rolling the dice with lives of Florida residents. The governor's executive policies are also an infringement on classroom safety, which is guaranteed by the state's constitution. Ben Frazier of the Northside Coalition said Governor Ron DeSantis should stop playing partisan politics with the COVID crisis and should instead act decisively to save the lives of Florida residents. His policies are unscientific and threaten to jeopardize the lives of school-age children. Thank you.
We'll take the next comment. Hello? Caller, your line is live. We'll move on to the next comment.
Hi, my name's Cindy Salerno, calling from Parkland, Florida. And I'm calling because we specifically moved down to this community to have better schools for our children, and to get down here and to still pay the amount of taxes that we pay to allow our children to go to public schools, and for them to be shamed and the rights of us to be taken away, for us to choose not to put our children in masks, is completely tyrannical. This is absurd. For anybody to say that we need to send our kids in masks, these boxes of masks basically state on there that they do not protect against COVID, but yet we need to send them to school with these masks on. This is absolutely insane. We're not going to comply anymore. Please, school board, do what you can.
We'll take the next comment.
Okay, just for the record, there is peer-reviewed meta-analysis saying that cloth masks are 50 to 70% effective in reducing the viral load in the air when they're worn by someone who's infected. So yes, the masks protect you when they're wearing them. They also protect you from the other people that are wearing them. And that's the problem. That's why COVID is still here. That's why there's a crisis. The crisis is the disease, people. I know you don't like the mask. I know it's uncomfortable. I know you think everything is tyranny. But you gotta think about the public good once in a while when people are dying. and the schools are shutting down, and the mask is not causing that. The mask is fixing it. That's the only solution we have right now. That's not tyranny. That's Americans doing what they need to do to make America great, okay? It's not fun. It's not comfortable, but that's what we got to do.
We'll take the next comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, okay, I'm calling from Alachua County, and I just had just two things. My first thing is that I keep hearing our superintendent referred to as Ms. Simon. I just want to point out that he's Dr. Simon, and it was a bit inappropriate to hear Mrs. Simon over and over again. The second thing is, it seems like these parent rights only go one way. Do I have the right to want my child in a masked environment for learning? I don't have the option to send them to a different school district. All the school districts around us are masked optional. They have the option to send their kids somewhere else. We don't. So where is my liberty and my choice to keep my child safe in their school?
We have time for one more comment. Your line is now live.
Hi, this is Diana from Pensacola, Florida. I've been listening to this the entire time, and I want to applaud the doctor that called in and to finally hear from a medical professional tonight. You can't have it both ways. You can't say the mask protects you and then be feeling unsafe if you're around someone that's not wearing a mask. If you're so worried about it, send your kid to school with a mask and let the rest of us that don't want our kids in masks to not wear a mask. Now, granted, I am in a wonderful district. My superintendent and our teachers have been amazing. We are not required or under any sort of mandate. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous that this is even a conversation. It should be up to the parents, just like vaccines, just like anything else. It should be up to the parents. This should not be a conversation at all. Again, you can't have it both ways. You can't say that you feel unsafe because somebody else is not wearing a mask.
This concludes the allotted time for the public comment section.
Thank you, operator. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, members, we have a motion. It's been seconded. The motion was to authorize and direct the commissioner to act in connection with Broward County in the same fashion as previously moved with respect to Alachua County. And at this time, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, members, for your time today. Thank you, all those people who called in. Again, I have said nothing but attributing good faith to all who have participated, and I know it's getting late. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's call. Thank you for your participation. You may now disconnect your phone lines.